Christos Anesti, Christ is risen. Hello to all those who are members of the Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Cathedral community and all of our friends. This is Father Jonathan, and today is the fourth Sunday of Pascha, commonly referred to as the Sunday of the Paralytic. And the Church gives it this designation, this signifier, because the Gospel reading today speaks about an episode in the life of Christ when he heals a man who has been paralyzed, a paralytic. And along with this reading, the apostolic reading also speaks about the raising of a paralytic. In that instance, in the Acts of the Apostles, it's Peter who does it. And immediately after, we see him traveling to another area where he not only raises a paralytic, but he raises a woman who has recently died. And so I wanted to focus in today's reflection on a question that sometimes emerges when we read about these miracles in the life of Christ and in the life of the apostles. And the theme is, and the reality is, we see that Christ and his disciples perform miraculous healings. And we might find ourselves today wondering, where are those miracle workers when we need them? If we're in a time when we are concerned about public health and safety, there's virus going around, there's this horrific pandemic, and people are suffering and people are dying, and there's all this financial instability because there's no cure for this yet. Where is God? Where is Christ? Where are those holy men like the apostles who can heal by a word? And this is a reality that in many cases shakes our faith, because we believe in a God who is all-powerful, almighty, all-knowing. And yet there's suffering, there's pain, there's disease, there's illness, there's coronaviruses and other epidemics. There's epidemics of people harming themselves because of the realities in which they live. There's mental illness. There's all of these things. Where is God? And unfortunately, there is no beautiful, good, completely assuaging of any issue reply to these questions. It just isn't. Other than that we know that this isn't the end of the story. There's more to this story than just illness, than just the suffering. And I think what we need to remember, and actually really the practice that we need to perform in the midst of the reality of a world that's full of sickness and suffering, emotional, spiritual, and physical, is to take to heart something that I have discovered in the midst of my own sufferings. That deep pain, hurt, harm, traumas can turn into deep suffering when it's endured alone. I think what these passages teach us is that healing is impossible alone. It's always relational. And we have to remember that even when we see people who have been raised from the dead, who have been healed in these stories, they were not amongst those who we believe are living forever, eternally, presently. Lazarus died. During my Bible study this week, someone brought up the fact that there's this tradition that Lazarus never laughed again after witnessing the reality of Hades. the woman Tabitha from the Acts of the Apostles, the reading that we'll read this Sunday, died again. The paralytic who was healed, in both instances, did not live forever with a refashioned body, but he too died. Both of them, they both died. But what we see in this instance is the reality of what and how Christ heals, the apostles heal, in relationship. So these people aren't alone. And in my own experience in life, and I'm sure you have your own experiences, when I've been alone in my pain, I've felt the greatest suffering. But when I had someone with whom I could share the burden that I was bearing, the burden of my pain, be it emotional or physical or even spiritual, when I had someone to endure it with me, when someone shared this burden with me, although I felt great pain, I did not succumb to the worst of what suffering I could have. Again, this isn't solace. This isn't to assuage any resentments that we might have towards the reality of our own suffering. It's just to say that when we are together, when we bear one another's burdens, no pain is too great. This is our hope. This is our hope in the midst of this world, because we're going to suffer and die. When Christ speaks at the raising of Lazarus just beforehand, he says, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he will live. We can't escape the realities of this life, but we can think differently about them so that our pains don't become sufferings which isolate us all the more and worsen them. And our job, if we are healthy, if we are well, or even if we are wounded, but able to offer ourselves to others, is to do that very thing. To be with those who suffer, so that their suffering may be reduced even a little bit by the joy of relationship, of love, of being together. And it's God's business if healing takes place, miraculous or otherwise. It's somewhat more somber, this note, but it's a reality that we face daily. I pray that there is some comfort in knowing that we are not ever in anything alone. God is everywhere present and filling all things, and we have our brothers and sisters in Christ to bear the load with us, to walk beside us, to help us when we stumble and pick us up when we fall. And we do the same for those whom we love. God bless you. We're here for you. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Christos Anesti, Christ is risen.